Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar. To introduce myself, my name is Walid. I'm SHELT Country Manager. I have with me today Tom Schoon. He's the Head of Strategic Partnerships at SUMSUB. Definitely, as you are aware, the objective of this webinar is to introduce the SUMSUB to the African market, okay, the all-in-one compliance platform for financial institutions, including fraud management, compliance, and so on. Definitely, Tom will be in a better position to demonstrate the services. And allow me first to share my screen to introduce a bit SHELT for some of you who doesn't know SHELT much. I will introduce SHELT quickly, who we are, what do we do, what are the different services we render, and then I will give the floor to Tom to deep dive into SUMSUB. At any point of time, please, if you have any question, you can drop it in the Q&A or on the chat, and we will answer your question accordingly. Definitely at the end of the session, we will give you some minutes to ask all your questions and all your clarifications if needed. So who is SHELT? SHELT is your cybersecurity as a service partner. So just a second. Okay, so SHELT is a European cybersecurity enterprise. Our headquarters is in Cyprus. We have offices all across Middle East, Europe, and Africa. We have been in Nigeria for more than 7 years now. We are one of the DPCOs with the NDPB office. We are GDPR certified, ISO 27001 certified, and I'm happy to announce that SHELT has been nominated the top cybersecurity solution provider in the MENA region for the year 2024 and 2023, respectively. So we have the experience from different, partners that they are all leaders in their respective fields, ranging from telecommunication network providers, managed services, to cybersecurity service providers. So what do? We protect your business by providing a 24/7 managed security services with our centralized dedicated security consultants. We have a lot of consultants in Nigeria as well. We will help you identify, protect, detect, respond, recover from any potential security breach in the organization. What is our main objective? To increase the cybersecurity maturity. As you are aware, you have different levels of cybersecurity maturity organizations, ranging from reactive or unprepared. We need to shift them, all of us, to a more proactive. What do we mean by proactive? Where the people, processes, and technologies are orchestrated to protect against foreseeable threats from known and unknown sources. Security is aligned with the needs of the enterprise, risk-based defense in-depth approach, proactivity in threat hunting, cybersecurity mesh architecture, and definitely automation. So as you are aware nowadays, the financial ecosystem is growing. Once the financial ecosystem is growing, the complexity of compliance growth, the complexity of the fraud will increase definitely. So this is why it's very important and crucial to partner with SUMSUB in order to protect you from the unforeseen frauds activities or to cover all the compliance that is required nowadays by the central banks, especially the Central Bank of Nigeria and Ghana as well. Moving forward, what are the different services we render? We provide 24/7 Security Operations Center. We have a lovely Security Operations Center in Nigeria. You are all invited to visit us in our office. We provide you with the REVA brand and VIP protection, SIEM as a service. We are partners with different security vendors like Fortinet, SUMSUB, Bitdefender, Sequence, Black Kite, Fortinet, KnowBe4, and so on. And definitely we have our own cybersecurity training academy in Nigeria. On top of all that, we provide the full bouquet of cybersecurity, starting from penetration testing, red team exercise, crisis management and digital forensics, source code review, reverse engineering, maturity assessment, risk management, and so on. And recently, we have signed a new partnership with SUMSUB. Definitely, I will be giving the floor now to Tom to introduce SUMSUB to all of us and to discuss what added value SUMSUB can bring to the African market. Thank you for your time once again. Thank you for joining. Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Walid, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Walid, thank you for the introduction, and SUMSUB is definitely extremely excited to be the partner of SHELT in Africa and beyond. I think the partnership is very complementary, and we are excited to essentially join forces with SHELT across Africa. So as Walid said, my name is Tom, and I'm from South Africa. I've been to Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, East Africa many times. And SUMSUB has actually been in front of the regulator many times in Ghana, Nigeria, and other parts of Africa to try and help those regulators build out a defragmented regulatory landscape. I'm sure everyone on the call will be very well aware of how fragmented the regulatory landscape is. In Nigeria, obviously, there are multiple regulators, all of whom put out different regulations at different times. And this trend is true across Africa. So essentially, we are here to essentially solve for that fragmented regulatory landscape. So let me chat just a little bit about SUMSUB. We're about 10 years old. We're one of the biggest, the big 5 compliance platforms, or what we call RegTech systems in the world. We entered the African market around 18 months ago. And essentially, we are applying to Africa what we have essentially achieved in different parts of the world, including APAC, Europe, the US, LATAM, which is essentially a one-cycle verification platform. The platform does multiple things, and if you had to look at your ecosystems right now within your financial service provider companies, I'm sure there's some banks in the room. I'm sure there's some telcos in the room. There could be some fintechs in the room. You'll know that in order to be compliant with the regulator, as well as to try and mitigate against fraud, you have to use multiple systems. And so you could have 10 to 20 service providers trying to cover your compliance and your fraud mitigation processes at any one time. The problem is that those systems don't talk very well to each other. They're very expensive, and you have multiple integrations. So the new age of verification and the new age of compliance has arrived, and that comes in the form of a single system that does all of it. When I say all of it, I'm talking about onboarding, I'm talking about KYC processes, I'm talking about transaction monitoring, AML, sanction screening, fraud detection, business verification. So essentially, it's an all-in-one compliance platform, and on the other end of it, there's case management, there's built-in risk scoring, and essentially then there's also reporting. So we are currently building the reports that are necessary for daily and in real time sending through to the regulators at the moment in all countries in Africa. So one of the things that we do is in real time, we push all the information that has essentially come through in real time into those reports. And so they automatically send through to the regulator as well. So what I'd like to do is take you through a couple of slides and just quickly just run through the agenda. Essentially, the title being Combating Fraud and Maximizing Revenue, the all-in-one compliance solution. The name of the webinar is extremely important because that's exactly what SUMSUB does. And especially in Africa with the fragmented regulatory landscape, it's massively important to essentially make sure that you drive revenue, but at the same time remain compliant. And so we essentially, the platform, what it does essentially is it maximizes your revenue by making sure that the balance between fraud and onboarding is met correctly. So what we do is we give you an advantage to making sure that you onboard as many customers as possible, that those customers can transact as much as possible, while still making sure that we cut out fraud to 99%. So in Nigeria at the moment, a couple of new stats just came out. The same is true for Ghana and so on with regards to the amount of fraud that is taking place. So I'll start with a quick overview and then kind of dive deeper into essentially how we do that. So I'll have a kind of a quick overview of the platform itself, after which I will show you kind of just an overview of the value proposition, and then I will be happy to take your questions. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen, and just bear with me for a second. Okay, there we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen okay? Walid, can you just confirm that the screen is there?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Okay, fantastic, cool. So obviously there's some key challenges in the market, and essentially those key challenges involve a couple of things. There's a patchwork of regulations that you guys in the room all have to abide by, and essentially as you need to expand across Africa, there are different licensing regimes, there are different data privacy laws, there are distinct processes for AML and KYC requirements. Obviously in Nigeria, there are 4 tiers of KYC that you need to perform. Luckily, SUMSUB already has those built in. And so it's very important that as you evolve as a business, that your compliance you can evolve with you. So we know for a fact that regulations will come out all the time, but what you need to understand is in your current framework, how dynamic is that process? So in other words, can your current service providers change with the evolving landscape quickly and effectively? And the answer is no, they probably cannot. SUMSUB does this. So there's another trend at the moment in terms of compliance costs. So I'm not too sure if you guys, I'm sure there are a couple of people in the room that understand what your monthly bills are for your compliance service providers. It makes it extremely expensive based on the fact that it's fragmented, and also on the fact that you have multiple service providers that are charging you separate invoices every month, and also essentially are not dynamic. So they don't pass information between each other, which is essential for compliance, because within those integrations, there are holes, and bad actors find those holes, and that's how they get into your systems and they defraud your organizations. So having one robust system is extremely important. The other thing I wanted to just chat quickly about is the fact that you need to balance inclusion and security. Right? So the challenge for businesses is to implement stringent AML and KYC and KYB and transaction monitoring controls, which always create friction. But what you need to do is minimize that friction. So it is now possible to make sure that you essentially consolidate on as much revenue as you can by onboarding as many clients as you need to, or who apply, so that you reduce churn off the actual onboarding process. But at the same time, you can get rid of 99% of the fraudulent activity through our, the stringent AML, KYC, transaction monitoring processes that we provide. So, the results of all of these different, let's call them issues or challenges that you have in the African markets, is that you have a fragmented landscape, which leads to very, very slow onboarding and high drop-off rates. The other thing that it leads to is the increased risk of massive fines or license revocation should you not comply with the regulations. So the regulators don't make it easy. Right? They want you to comply, but they make it very, very difficult because it's so fragmented in the marketplace. So let's talk about the solution. The solution is, in fact, a one verification platform that does it all for you. We can reduce your costs by 50 to 60%. We can do that within 6 months, and we can also increase your return on investment that you currently enjoy with other service providers as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you a little bit about the system and what it essentially includes and what it does. So just bear with me. I'm just going to run on to the next slide. Okay, so what do we have? The SUMSUB platform has it's actually more like 6,500 customers now. We actually cut our teeth in crypto compliance, which means that we currently run about 70% of the world's crypto platforms, those being exchanges like Binance, like Exness, like BitGet, and so on. So we do a couple of probably tens of millions of checks a day within those specific exchanges, but we have now branched out into financial services, to insurance, to telco, to betting, and so on. So we've already verified over 1 billion people across the globe. We are currently doing around 10 to 15 million checks in Africa per month, and that is increasing exponentially. We are able to prevent between 350 and 500,000 fraud attempts on a monthly basis. And essentially what we've been able to do is reduce fraud for our customers up to 50, 60, 70% in the first 6 months. So we've kind of got very good at what we do. The actual platform includes user verification, so your basic KYC, all the biometrics in that KYC. It includes transaction monitoring for any type of transactions that your financial service provider organizations are carrying out on a daily basis. We do automated transaction monitoring, automated AML, all in real time. We also do business verification, and we do fraud prevention. So it's all built into the same system. So what exactly does the platform do? So on the left-hand side, you'll see the end user journey. So from account creation, the SUMSUB platform then does fraud prevention. So what we do is, as the customer tries to create an account, this could be on an app, it could be on a website, it could be in your actual branches, it doesn't really matter. We can do email risk assessment, phone risk assessment, device intelligence checks, behavioral intelligence, and we do IP location intelligence as well. So built into that application process is a whole lot of different value that it comes with, all of these different products that we are able to build into that application process. Then we go to the ID verification. So what we do here is user verification. The list that you can see here from top to bottom, ID verification, non-doc ID verification, which is available in Nigeria right now. It's about to be available in Ghana. We do liveness checks, deep fake detection, AML screening. Everything that you see there, we do when we do the IDV. So we do the verification. It's all built into the system. But based on your internal policy, based on your internal your territorial regulation, you can cherry pick what you need and just bring it down onto your levels and onto your flows. Very, very importantly, at the bottom, you'll see two items: reusable KYC and SUMSUB ID. And I just want to talk about reusable KYC quickly. Imagine within your banks or your organizations, your telcos, the ability to tokenize cached KYC information that can be shared within your organization, across department and across silos, so that the customer does not have to re-KYC every time that they essentially apply or get offered a different service within the actual bank itself, or within the telco, or within the insurance company. So it's very important to note that this product is live. It's running, so that within your organization, you can KYC an individual once, and then you can share it by tokenizing it, essentially a QR code or a link that can be then sent into a different area of your organization, a different department. In the middle, when the client logs in or there's some account activity, we then do fraud event management, device intelligence again, behavioral intelligence, face authentication, and MFA as well. So what we found in the industry is that 80% of fraud happens after KYC. Now, this is very, very important because a lot of organizations just do KYC because they want to tick a box, but essentially all the fraud happens after this is done. So it's important to re-authenticate when your clients are logging back into the system, and we can do that in several ways. So we can pick up if someone has stolen a phone and is trying to get back into the system using face match. We catch any bad actors through this process. We can set up rules that mitigate against specific threshold management, specific to transaction activity. It's all built into the system. We then do transaction monitoring as well, so all the fraud prevention, which includes device intelligence and behavioral intelligence. We do transaction monitoring, which essentially is the financial transaction, as well as an ongoing AML monitoring. You can do ongoing AML on a daily basis. You can do it hourly. It doesn't really matter. We can set that up for you. We also do bank account verification and payment method check. And just so that you guys know, we also do all docs. All docs meaning that we can verify any document that your client uploads. Doesn't really matter what it is. We can verify that it is, in fact, an authentic document. So it's a very comprehensive platform. This doesn't include KYB, which is business verification. So as you would like to onboard businesses into your various organizations, we do 3 types of KYB. One's called auto, the other one is called full, and we also do manual KYB as well. So from a compliance perspective, the system does all of it. And obviously the sharing of the information and the context that we get once your clients start transacting is second to none, because all of the information sits on one platform. From here, we send all this information into your case management suites that is specified for compliance teams. So we have case management suites from which your compliance teams can manage their day-to-day lives. And we also have built-in risk scoring into this journey as well. So important to note that Forrester did a total economic impact study. And we did this on several banks that we run globally. And the results were staggering. And one of the results that we got was a 240% return on investment within 6 months of using SUMSUB. So from the time it was switched on to 6 months later, the organization, and most of these organizations were financial service providers, enjoyed and obtained a 240% return on the investment that they had made in SUMSUB. So a very good figure for us. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys realize how much money you can actually save, how much revenue you can generate by using a single verification compliance platform. This slide just pertains to AML. I'm not going to dive too far into this slide, but essentially what I wanted to highlight here is that we have dynamic risk scoring built into our AML processes, including within the transaction monitoring module. I know that the Nigerian Central Bank put out a standardized automated AML compliance paper very recently, and I just want to let you know that we obviously can solve for that as well. But essentially, what you get in the system is a rules engine. We have a rules library full of different rules that you could use, but you can also create your own. We obviously have rule bundles as well that are specific to territories within Africa. So we understand the rules that are necessary in Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya, and we can apply those rules to your flows within the actual platform itself. We obviously do monitoring. We can find anomalies. We can do trigger alerts, all those good things. We do dynamic scoring and case management as well. Our flows include things like questionnaires. We do reporting. We do payment method checks and so on. So the actual platform is very, very comprehensive. So if you're a tier 1 enterprise level financial service provider, you can use one system, being this system, to run all of your compliance. And you can imagine the benefits of doing that. These are some of within some of these countries, we've actually helped financial services get compliant and obtain their licenses. We're now doing this in Nigeria, we're doing this in Ghana, we're doing this in Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia. So it just gives you an idea of, around the world, there are 50 plus odd countries where we have essentially, when the companies go to get their additional licenses, whatever it may be, and they say, right, well, our compliance partner is SUMSUB, that regulator normally signs it off pretty quickly, knowing that they are using us. So essentially, just to end off, why SUMSUB? And it's very, very simple. It's a one platform that essentially gives you all of your verification needs from onboarding to transactions. We run over 220 plus countries and territories. We cover all of the languages. So in Africa, for example, all of our SDKs are now in Swahili. We're working on other West African languages, but obviously we do French, English, and I think there are over 200 odd languages that we support already. We do offer local data processing for different countries. So if that is a requirement, I know most of the regulators are, they want you to abide by GDPR, but they copy and paste the GDPR into their own data regulations. But essentially, some of these organizations require local data processing, which we can do. It's a proprietary tech stack. So a lot of service providers, guys, will essentially get third parties to bring in elements of compliance. We don't do that. We do it, and we have built everything ourselves, which means that when things need to change based on new regulation, we can change with that regulation extremely quickly. We have strong compliance expertise around the world, and we have an in-house legal team as well, which you can utilize. And we are extremely flexible when it comes to flows. So you can have multiple flows built into a single enterprise because the enterprise covers 15 different territories. So you can have a flow per country, you can have a flow per customer type. You can simply build out any type of flows on the platform, but you can also use our rules library. Extremely important to note, just before I end off, is that the reusable KYC element to SUMSUB is magical, so that you can cut costs by only KYCing a customer once within a specific period, so that you do not have to carry out KYC every time you are supplying a financial service to an individual, or supplying a SIM card to an individual, or supplying a policy of insurance to an individual. So the reusable KYC product is the new magical secret, and we've applied that to several territories. And those companies that have integrated it and have applied it onto their platforms are saving a hell of a lot of money. So part of that 240% return on investment. So just to sum it up, by using SUMSUB, you can essentially maximize on revenue by making sure that you are onboarding clients quickly and effectively, that we reduce false positives, that at the same time you are essentially saving a lot of money by using us because you can use one. And so the balance that we've achieved between compliance and let's call it onboarding is second to none. And I'd very much like to hand it over to the floor now, and just to see, Walid, if there's been any questions while I've been talking, and I'd be very happy to take some questions. Walid, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Tom. Actually, we have a question from Mr. Abu Bakar. How does this solution affect the transaction speed and user experience?
It's a good question. It's a very broad question, and I think that if your current user experience is, let's call it 5 out of 10, so in other words, there's a fragmented process by which users have to go through in order to get onboarded and then in order to transact. If you have an application, if you don't have an application, it's normally quite a clunky process based on the fact that you're using multiple systems. So, for example, you could be using Oracle or Experian to do AML. You could be using a different KYC provider. You could be using a different transaction monitoring provider. So what we do is we improve the customer experience 10x because we supply you with the SDKs for your web and your mobile applications. Or you can integrate once for all of your compliance via full API, right? So we can do a full integration into your current Rails, whatever kind of core software that you're using. We have Open API and REST API methodology. So you can consume one API, and essentially what that does is it makes your user experience, your customer experience very smooth. Our average time to onboard in Africa right now is between 5 and 15 seconds. So when the client applies to the point that they get verified, depending on how quickly they can take a photograph of their ID document and how quickly they can do their liveness, it's between 5 and 15 seconds. From a transaction monitoring perspective, it's instantaneously. So when we monitor your transactions, your transaction software is, we are completely agnostic to what you're currently using. But essentially, we are able to monitor transactions in real time. So we don't increase the time of the process from a transaction perspective. What you actually can do is build rules on the types of transactions you don't want, or the types of transactions you want to prevent. So remember, for example, in Nigeria right now, there is no real-time reporting for transactions. So maybe there's an AML hit on a specific transaction. Maybe there's no rule on that transaction. The regulator only knows about that 24, 48, maybe a week later. All right, you guys can attest to this, I'm sure. With SUMSUB, we can prevent the transaction from happening based on the rules and based on the integrations that you've done for transaction monitoring. So we can simply say no to it, or we can push it and flag it to your case management, where your compliance team will get a ping and they'll get a flag to say there's a transaction that has just been applied or processed that needs to be approved based on the information that they will be able to see. So, for example, threshold management. So if you see a maximum threshold being utilized 5 times in a row in 5 minutes, you might want to shut down that transaction very, very quickly. And then from a regulatory perspective, we can report to the regulator and to your compliance team instantaneously in real time. So the answer to the question in summary is we improve customer experience 10x, and we are able to essentially make sure that your transactions, based on the rules that you've applied to your transactions, are either prevented or approved instantaneously. So the compliance around transactions, the rule engine can be applied, and I think most importantly, you can prevent transactions from taking place without having to go through a long-winded process through a compliance team. So we make it instantaneous and we digitize the whole process. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Tom. Mr. Abu Bakr, if you have any further clarification, please mention it in the Q&A again. Another question, Tom, for you. Does this AML is hosted in Saudi Arabia? Is it SAMA and DMO compliant? Or we need to check with the Middle East people?
So I can send Walid. What I can do is I can send you all of our certification. Our AML is compliant globally. The AML portion of our system, we host essentially in AWS servers around the world. So we process transactions locally, but we host in AWS. But that information, we're not a hoster, we're a processor, right? So we pass all that information directly back to you as the organization who owns that data. So it doesn't matter what type of, you can either use SUMSUB to store it. You don't own it, you do. But we can also just pass it via an API push with unique accounts directly back into your database. It's not an issue. So the AML information, look, I think it's good to mention that we've got over 15,000 AML databases plugged into the back end of our system across the world, which covers the globe very, very comprehensively. And we check all of those lists that are essentially relevant to that specific individual or territory. We do that in real time very, very quickly. But you as the financial service provider can also upload your own AML blacklists. Right, so let's say that you're a bank and you've got 100,000 individuals that you've blacklisted or that you've flagged. You can upload that into the system, and the system can apply that blacklist to your organization as well, along and also obviously all of the other AML databases that we have. So you know, whether it's Comply Advantage, World Check, and their local corporate registries, they are we've got over 15,000 of them plugged into the back. So it is definitely we are compliant with the Middle East, and we run a couple of banks in the Middle East, including some fintechs
Yeah,
in the Middle East
Tom,
as well.
sorry to interrupt. Wasim is saying that according to SAMA and NDMO, data should be hosted locally, so local data center. AWS is not in Saudi Arabia. So I think we will then, after this call, send Wasim some information about this thing, right?
Sure, absolutely. And look, we offer local data processing, so that's it's not an issue. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Another question I have from Ruth. How can SUMSUB fraud detection solution help prevent account takeover?
You know, there are a couple of ways. So as you saw in the presentation from from start to finish, within our onboarding process, we have several different pieces that prevent account takeover completely. We have, so from a biometrics point of view, the technology that we use is pointed at, if let's say that an account takeover is attempted, we can pick up if that account takeover has been, if it has been essentially tried in various ways. Firstly, biometrics, right? So you can apply a liveness and a face match test at any point during essentially a transaction, but before that, a login process. So if an account takeover has been attempted, there are biometric processes in place, remembering that we do full OCR on any documentation, but that from a liveness detection and a biometric point of view is all built into the KYC, the applications, and then the transaction monitoring process as well. More to that, we do device intelligence and we do IP checks as well as geolocation checks. So for example, account takeovers can take place in the same city, but they can also take place, let's say that there's a device that's been used and that device has transacted several times in a specific geolocation. So let's say it's in Lagos and that device is on Lagos Island, and all the transactions that have taken place by the individual using that device have taken place in a specific place. Now, all of a sudden, maybe that account takeover has involved the theft of a phone or whatever it might be. We can see that that phone is now in a very different place. Maybe it's on the mainland. And based on the rules that you can apply, you can prevent that transaction from taking place. And you would also need to do a liveness check on re-entry into that account, right? So, and Ruth, I'd be very happy to take you through a demo of how we do that. But essentially, there are many factors which we use to and have built into the process in order to prevent that. I think that in the last 3 years, I'll give you a stat. In the last 3 years, I think there have been, out of billions of transactions that we run, I think there has been 3 account takeovers that have got through, but we've been able to assess them and essentially shut that account down within about 24 hours of that account having been taken over. But they've only been 3 out of about, let's call it 500,000 attempts on a monthly basis globally. So there is no other platform in the world that can actually essentially boast those types of figures. So there are a couple of factors that we use, and or a couple of processes that we use, all built into the application, the KYC process, and the login process, which is where we essentially do
So
re-authentication.
Tom, in other words, so this can remotely shut down a stolen device, right?
Absolutely. So what we can do is we can't remotely shut down the device, but we can remotely shut down any theft that takes place through that device, through transactions that the thief, let's call it, is trying to process through that device. So we can, and we can notify you of that, right? So we can flag that to your compliance team to say, hey, this phone is in a different place now. It's been on the Lagos Island for the last 2 years, and now all of a sudden it's on the mainland, and there's very strange transactions trying to take place with different amounts or a maximum threshold amount. We just shut that down completely. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question, Tom. Does it have features like PEP and sanction screening? And how did you update your PEP list within the context of client location, for example, in Nigeria?
Yeah, so we do sanction screening, we do PEP checks, we do full. That's obviously a part of KYD, but we do that through KYC as well. So I think I mentioned whatever 50,000 perspective, but we also have local corporate registry APIs. So we plug in directly to local corporate registries throughout Africa. We also use global corporate registries like Dan and Bradstreet. Excuse me. So there are multiple databases that we check from a PEP and sanction screening perspective. We can also do UBO checks as a part of your KYB process, and then build KYB process to send your the directorship of that specific organization KYC journey, KYC link that they would need to go through. So our PEP and sanction screening is extremely comprehensive. We spend a lot of money every year, every month on direct API integration accounts into those databases, including the very big corporate registries across Africa as well. Nigeria and Ghana, we've pretty much covered all of them. And again, we can share those with you.
Excellent. Another question we have is that, is it possible to purchase the AML module as a standalone rather than subscribing to the full package?
Absolutely. So the AML module can be completely plugged in as a standalone feature to your current process. Remembering, however, that you would need to pass us information about previous transactions and the KYC information that your current system is utilizing. We can then run AML on that data as the transactions are processed, but we can also do auto AML, so ongoing AML as well. So yes, you can purchase AML as a standalone feature, but just bear in mind that you would need to pass us information that we would need to utilize in order to perform that AML extremely well.
So Hakeem, we are waiting for your first PO, please. So the AML module can be purchased as a standalone. Okay, Hakeem, we'll wait for it. So another question from Ismail, can the tool be customized for an organization with different businesses without acquiring multiple instances?
Absolutely. So if you're an enterprise and you have multiple subsidiaries and those businesses are very different in terms of the compliance that they have to perform, we could issue you with what's called a master key at an enterprise level, and then we can issue you with subsidiary keys, or what we call child keys. Each key can have very, very different products in it based on within our actual platform, there are over 300 services that you can make use of. So business one needs services, 10 services, but very specific to their type of business. And we would push those services into key number one for business number one. Second key, third key, 100th key, doesn't really matter. You can run 1,000 keys under Array Master. Each key can have very, very different services accessible to that business based on their internal policies, based on their requirements, and based on the type of compliance that they need to perform. Yeah.
Perfect. Can SUMSUB solution detect and prevent phishing attacks? It's different.
Phishing attacks are slightly different. Phishing attacks come through
Yeah.
email servers. I think Walid and SHELT would be
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to
yeah.
prevent that. Yeah.
Exactly. We'll take it ourselves with root. Okay. So Victor is asking, can you throw light to integration with other systems using APIs?
Absolutely. We do that often and all the time. So we are partnered with many, many core banking companies like Thought Machine, like Mamboos, like you name it. We've partnered with them already. So we've done APIs already to most of those cores, but we can do any type of core. It doesn't really matter what software you're currently using across the board. We can plug in a part of SUMSUB into any type of software. As long as that software has APIs, we're okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Stanley is asking, how do you shut down a device you do not have access to? It's based to the stolen device question.
So we can't shut down the device. I think that, you know, that from shutting down a device perspective, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. I think, you know, the CIA. For example, let's say a device has been stolen. That the person who's stolen that device has been able to enter into that cell phone. So let's say that they've got through the initial biometrics. Maybe it's a code, maybe there's a thumbprint, and they've got a person under duress at gunpoint, and they said, "Give me your thumbprint, tell me what your code is." And the person is here under duress, and that person is trying to empty the bank accounts of that human. We have several ways that we can prevent that. So we can detect that that human, when they do their liveness or face match, is under duress. We can shut down any transactions that take place. So when that human goes into, so let's say that the thief has now got the phone and he's pointing, and he's got it pointing at to try and take the face match, the selfie, the liveness that you might want to do at a point of processing a transaction. But we've had multiple use cases where because the system has detected an amount that is hasn't been used before. So the trends, the previous, all the trends that have taken place, all the different all of a sudden some things are different, including the fact that the face is under duress. So we can shut down those transactions. We can't shut down the phone, unfortunately, but we can prevent the actual transactions from taking place. Well, look, if that individual somehow got the face match through, we've had maybe a couple of instances where that's happened. But we shut them down based on the fact that we can see people under duress with our liveness and our face match technology. There are certain other ways we can do that. You can also build in other, let's call it criteria processes before a transaction is processed that would prevent that type of criminality or fraud from taking place.
Perfect. So Tom, some questions. Where is your solution running in Nigeria today? Can we see the solution? What the solution looks like, the case management suite? Let's see the rule engine and what model is used for account profiling. And have you integrated to FEP card services? So those are questions from Stanley.
Okay, cool. So there are several businesses in Nigeria currently using SUMSUB. Some of the biggest fintechs in Nigeria currently using us. I'm not able to name them, unfortunately. But we can, under NDA, I'd be very, very happy to let you know. So in Nigeria at the moment, we're probably doing between 5 and 10 million checks a month across Nigeria. We also solve for the Nigerian diaspora issue, because as of right now, we can ID anyone in Africa in any country. So if a Nigerian is living in the US and they're needing to process transactions locally from the US, we can verify that. So a lot of the payment service providers in Nigeria have come to us to say, please, can you solve for this? They might use a competitor at the moment, but we are certainly starting to push those competitors out because the competitors cannot do what we do. We can ID anyone in Africa. We essentially, from a coverage perspective, there are no IDs and there are no proof of address documents that we cannot verify. There might be one that maybe is deregistered, but we would be able to pick up that it's been deregistered. The second part of that question from Stanley was, just remind me, Willie, can you just remind me the second part of that question?
The case management suite, can they see
case management.
how the solution looks like, the case management suite, and
Sure.
also
So,
the rule engine and what model is used for account profiling?
Sure. So what I can do is, I'm very, very happy. So anyone who's very interested in a demo of the system, please reach out to Walid or Alain, and we can schedule a demo. They normally take between 1 and 2 hours to see kind of one part of the actual system. But what I can do now is just take you through what the dashboard looks like, right? So we can go through some very basic things. In fact, Walid, we've actually just reached 2 o'clock, unfortunately. But
yeah, I understand. No problem. We will schedule other demo sessions.
Yeah. So what I'd like to offer, and if you would like to see a full demo of any part of the system, case management, risk scoring, how that works, how that's built into the system, the AML module, and so on, please reach out to Walid or Alain, and we will be able to schedule a one-on-one demo with you. I will be able to divulge a lot more information with you as well, because we will have the paperwork in place that we need. And we would also be very happy to set up a sandbox environment for you, so you can start testing the system in your own environment. So we can offer you a sandbox, and you can start building out, different rules. You can start pulling in different flows to start testing the results of how it works. Once you've seen how it works, you go through the dashboard and how easy it is to use, remembering that there's no coding whatsoever that is required. You can simply drag and drop specific processes into the system. I'd be very, very happy to do that, and Walid and Alain would be, I'm sure, will be very happy to set up those demos on our behalf.
Yes. Last question: have you integrated to FEP card services?
No, we have not. No, I'm assuming that is the that's the legal court services software in Nigeria.
Stanley, can you confirm this?
While that is confirmed, I can confirm that if it is a portion of the current Nigerian national database, that is essentially let's call it a kind of like an add-on to that. It's possible that we have already, but I can confirm, but I don't think we have. We are integrated, so we have a direct integration into the Nigerian national database as of today.
Okay, perfect.
So in other words, we can perform verifications without documents. We pull the information out of the Nigerian database, and we verify using face match.
Excellent. Any questions, guys? Please, if you would like to schedule a demo, we are more than happy to schedule it at your convenient time. If you have any questions, we'll give you a couple of minutes. Just drop it in the chat box or the Q&A. If not, we will end up this call. And really, we thank you for attending, and we can follow up afterwards individually with you in order to move to the next level in our discussion. So we'll give you a couple of minutes if you have any questions, so you can drop it. If not, we will end the session while we are looking forward to hear from you.
If I can just say thanks very much to Walid. Thank you to Alain for setting this up. Thank you to Ruba as well. And we really appreciate your time to have a look at the new age of verification that is now available to you. So again, as Walid says, please reach out to him and to his team, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up later. Thank you.
Thanks, Walid. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye. So thank you everyone for attending our call and our webinar. Definitely we'll get in touch with you the soonest. If you have any question or you would like to see an demo, please reach out to SHELT, to myself, my colleagues, and wish you a lovely afternoon ahead. Thank you for attending, everybody. Thanks.